This video is sponsored by Dr. Squatch. Ah, the familiar smells of a game store. Books, model paint, the indescribable smell of a booster pack being opened, and BO. We can do better, and we can do it naturally. Dr. Squatch soap is only made with real natural ingredients. Embrace nature. The first time I used the pine tar bar, I felt like a rugged druid that had been tree striding through a pine forest. I felt great. My skin wasn't dried out, and most importantly, I smelled great. It's refreshing to smell like something that's actually real. What is steel bravery supposed to smell like? Seriously, that sounds like it belongs in D&D. Let's get real for a little bit. Quit being a barbarian. Use good, real, natural soap and boost your charisma in real life. Dr. Squatch, Druid approved. New customers can get 20% off on orders of $20 or more when they go to drsquatch.com and enter code DSC all things D&D. Click the link in the description below. Now what you're here for. What's in the bag? Never dump a bag of holding. I'm a relatively new DM. I have less than 1 year of experience. But what I lack in experience, I make up for in planning and enthusiasm. My party is a Crocodile Echo Knight Fighter, a Kinku Mutant Blood Hunter, a Half-Orc Eldritch Knight Fighter, a Warforged Great Old One Warlock, and a Kobold Graviturgy Wizard, all level 4. The party has a very slow-charging cubic gate that they found so I could justify planar shenanigans, and they used it to make their way to my homebrew version of the Elemental Planes. I like to joke at the start of sessions that the players should have a backup character just in case things go wrong. Currently, the players are on a quest to help some rock people who've been hiding from a large bird-shaped creature recently. The rock people live in a giant stone ring that juts from the ground and is protected from the horrid elemental effects, but the party decides to check the cliffs where the bird has been spotted flying towards a few times. I get my players to roll for some random weather effects on the way there. They end up getting acid rain and try to run to a rocky outcropping in order to get out of the storm, but a huge fissure opens up beneath them. Remember how I make up for my inexperience with planning? Well, creating elaborate tables for things like how big will a fissure be is a prime example of that. I roll for the size of the fissure. It ends up being 150 feet wide, 60 feet across, and I'm sorry, what? 330 feet deep. Oh my god, why did I make this chart? I allow the 3 players who made the save to use their reactions to try and grab the 2 players who failed. Everyone succeeds, and they manage to get across to the other side without taking too much more acid damage. The party waits out the storm under a large rock and then moves on to investigate the cliffs. The Crocodile Fighter has the ability to fly because of a transformation he endured earlier in the game. So he flies up and sees a dark shadow launch from the cliffs, back towards the ring, and alerts the rest of the party. His strength lets him carry the rest of the party without being unencumbered, so he becomes the group's taxi cab and flies them back to the giant stone ring in the middle of the night. They land at the top of the ring and finally see that the huge bird was actually 3 griffins flying in formation. The griffins have no riders, but are armored and can speak. They try to negotiate with the intelligent griffins and find out they're trying to secure a new place that's safe enough to build a home for a large group of them. The party convinces them that they'll set up a meeting with the rock people, and the griffins come morning. The next morning, they fly back to the top and meet the griffins from the night before. The original 3 griffins have been joined by a griffin prince and a heavily armored guard. I end up having to roll persuasion versus wisdom save to see if the brutish griffins get their point across. Nat 1 versus 7, bad rolls all around, so the elder rock person turns on his charm ability to avoid a fight, and some of the PCs get caught in it. The rock people technically get to keep their home, and the griffins get a new home and make new friends in the process. Hooray! The rock people and griffins leave, but the rock people pay the party with the promised loot, a magical bag. They find out it's a used bag of holding that used to belong to a long-dead wizard. Every time they try and take something out of it, I ask them to roll and consult a homebrew chart to see what comes out. Another hooray for planning. The party decides screw it, and they send the Warforged into the bag head first. I thought they might be a bit careful, because I dubbed it the bag of many things. Warforged finds a weapon handle in the seemingly infinite blackness that is the inside of the bag, and a bunch of tiny creatures grab onto him, but don't attack. The Warforged comes back out, and the party sees he has a warhammer, and 13 pixies have latched onto him, screaming their heads off in Sylvan. Crocodile Fighter and Kinku Blood Hunter scare off the pixies with some impressive intimidation rolls before they start grabbing other things out of the bag. Crocodile gets 1,000 feet of rope out of the bag. Half-Orc pulls out a magical ring. The party decides to split the loot, but because of a terrible arm wrestle between the wizard and the blood hunter, the Kinku blood hunter gets ownership of the bag and gets to decide what to do. The Kinku decides to turn the bag inside out and just dump everything on the ground so they can see what loot they got. Okay, give me a sec to find everything that comes out, guys. Time to reference yet another homebrew chart. Magic items weren't the only things in the bag. There were also monsters. They just had really good luck to not accidentally pick any of them yet, while randomly rolling for loot. Everyone is getting ready to wrap up the session. People start talking about work and going to bed soon, and I'm scrambling to find tokens for all the undead about to surround these idiots. But that's not the worst thing in the bag. Everyone comes back to the Roll20 map, as I tell them that as they dump the bag inside out, they suddenly find themselves surrounded by gold, jewels, weapons, armor, potions, scrolls, and skeletons, ghouls, a wight, a talking doll, a dryad, and floating skulls. Before you guys get on my back for making this bag unfair, this was a random magic item bag I made a year ago to just insert into a campaign whenever. The last thing they see is a single mote of light that falls out of the bag before they all have to make a dex save. The last thing in the bag was a delayed blast fireball, suspended in time. 2 PCs made the save. The rest failed, verse 80 fire damage. They had between 30 and 40 hit points, so they had to use their very rare limited resource points I had given at the start of the game to survive at 1 HP. Fortunately, they all survived, and the fireball killed almost all the undead to boot. Unfortunately, the 3 floating skulls were flame skulls. Flame skulls are immune to fire damage, and can cast fireball once each per long rest. I end the session there, as we all laugh our asses off to keep the tension going until the next session. But now I'm a little concerned about the real potential of TPKing my whole party come next session. So, I need your advice. Do I potentially kill my entire party next session, or do I cleverly avoid combat? What would you do? That's tough. I think I would avoid combat and killing my party, or maybe just kill the Kinku. Lessons need to be learned somehow. What do you all think? Please let us know what you think and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, All Things D&D. Our next video will be posted in 3 days, so stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.